Contact Community and one with Liberty Resources, for really expenditures that they've continued to incur during service the last 3 months. And so the two grants, Liberty specifically has around 50,000 left that had not been vouchered because the contract had ended, and Contact has about 26 left. And these are the diversionary response projects, the mobile crisis unit project with Liberty, and then Contact's diversionary work that went into place in 2023. Any questions?
So why weren't any vouchers submitted?
So they've submitted through the end of their contract year. We really, with some of the transitioning that we've had on our team, we did not get in prior to the expiration of those contracts. So we're asking for a no cost extension through the end of March for those two, since they do have remaining funds for the contracts.
So this would clear both of them.
Yep.
And we'll be done.
Yep.
Okay.
Other questions?
A question real quick, Tanya. So I know they report to you. Do they give you a data of how many list of responses and that for you?
Yeah. So, well, they also Gen Tift is pretty diligent in making sure that we have all of our data on a regular basis. So for Contact's diversionary response through the end of the year, they had diverted, the goal was a minimum of 260. They actually had diverted 501 calls, which is really incredible. They provided response interventions to 624. 3% of those calls required law enforcement, and then really 85 of those calls worked with supporting agencies to develop a plan to manage and prevent future crisis. And then on the Liberty Resources side, the goal was 300, which they met that mobile crisis unit with 75% stabilizing, individuals stabilizing the community. They actually had 82%. Which is incredible, and 100% of those individuals were recommended for ongoing stabilization services. Yeah.
I guess, thank you, Tanya. I guess my question will go to Chief Shaw. Chief, part of this initiative when we passed them was to make sure that, at least issues that SPD should just stay off from, should go to the other direction. How has that been for you guys? Has this been helpful at all? Or?
It's so valuable that we're going to continue to budget for it in our own budget.
Okay. So it reduced the load on the offices and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then if we have what we call frequent flyers, people are using a lot of resources, we can direct them that way too to maybe prevent future police interventions.
Are there other funding sources potentially available? And this might not be to you, this might be back to grants.
I don't know about grants.
Right, no, I figured, one's a grant, one's ARPA. I think that mental
Tanya,
health
anything?
services are.
The question is, any other funding sources, or is it Michelle? Okay. All right.
We know now, and we got time to work on an application.
Michelle Sapansky, Deputy Commissioner of Neighborhood Development. So this particular program isn't one that would necessarily fit within our typical kind of CDBG allowable uses, but it is certainly something kind of understanding the priority and the value add that it's been for the department. I think it's something that we would want to make sure that we're working with Janet's group over in research to identify kind of other funding sources that may be available for it through some of those other streams. But I think ultimately kind of the goal is if we're getting a value add and it's helping out services, we want to look to see kind of what we can do to sustain the work.
But wouldn't let me just throw a little monkey wrench here. So if we're going to look at grants, and I know, Chief, you can't answer, maybe you can, I don't know. But the thing of it is, and you saying it doesn't line up with NBD, I get that. But wouldn't it line up somewhere within the police department under some of their grants?
It certainly plausibly could. That's what I was getting at, kind of with working with research to identify what grant funding streams are available that they're typically working with. If there's a one that lines up very well, that's obviously kind of the first thing that we would look at. But certainly if we're getting a value add out of the work, there's as we have with other ARPA programs, I think the Community Ambassador Program is probably a comparable example where the value add of having those additional kind of contracted services to allow a similar level of intervention, it may be appropriate for us to explore additional uses within kind of city general funds. So I think the goal first is to max out all of the available grant dollars, which is what we're trying to do with this item here today.
Other questions? That would be all for me, Madam President.
All righty, Councilor Gathers.
Thank you, Madam President. Of items 13 through 19, items 13 through 16 are all going to be related to the public hearings that we're going to have on May 6th at 1 p.m. If there's no questions on those, we can move on to the amendments of 17, 18, and 19. If there's anybody that's going to speak on this item, so engineering coming up.
Good afternoon, councilors. Mary Robison, city engineer. This is a TIP project for paving East Colvin Street from Comstock Ave to City Line. It's a TIP project. We are asking to amend the ordinance, amend the agreement with New York State DOT, and amend the project authorization to add the construction and construction inspection phase for $4.611 million for a total project cost of $5.444 million. It's 80% federal funding, 15% Marchicelli, and 5% local. And the work will not be done this year. It'll be done starting spring of 2025.
Any questions on these?
It's my first time seeing the term Marchicelli funds.
It's our favorite
Could you
word.
just give me a primer
That's
on
my
what that
favorite word. I love hearing
Yeah,
that, Shelley.
New council alert.
is? Right, no,
It's-
admittedly.
It's additional state reimbursement.
Who was Mr. or Mrs. Marchicelli?
Excuse me, I've asked that and yet to get an answer many times. And who is Mr. Marchicelli?
I think Joe Barry advised us he was a previous elected.
He was a state senator that sponsored the amendment back in the day.
And a center fielding for the Boston Red Sox.
Yes, as well. He's multi-talented.
We're not guaranteed Marchicelli on all our TIP projects, so that's why President Hudson always wants to know if we're getting it or not. So,
And when you get it, it just makes me so happy.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. Everything's all set. Thank you, Madam President.
All righty. Move on to Councilor Hogan.
Thank you, President Hudson. I have items 20 through 28. 20 I will hold. 21 I will introduce and table. 22, you know, there's nothing that puts more warmth in the heart of a city councilor than seeing the Department of Assessment up here, the commissioner on the front page of the paper talking about
This is
full
very
value
exciting.
assessment.
Very exciting. I
You know,
don't even need
I
the
was so
paper.
excited to hear that, you know, as were my constituents, but
My presence at the podium is gratifying enough.
Yeah.
Matt OJ, Commissioner of Assessment. We're bringing an unusual, for us, software request this morning. Through our work with API, we've been chatting with the City of Buffalo, who is now on their second reval in 7 years. They've identified some enormous workflow enhancements by using SharePoint differently. They've got a consultant whom they swear by. We'd like to engage him to totally optimize everything we do, which, for those of you who've stepped into our office in the past few years, you recognize takes any number of pieces of paper to do everything we do, from the assessment change process, exemptions, re-subdivisions, of which we have a lot in the era of 81 appropriations, right on through grievance. So this is looking to totally, really revolutionize how we move activity through the office.
so this wasn't a result of an RFP or anything.
This was not, no. This was somebody to whom we directly reached out after talking with Buffalo.
So, I mean, it usually says waiver.
I know. I'll talk with the clerk about our letter.
Yeah.
We might have,
That the mayor's agreed to waive this. City clerk, Clerk. Yeah.
Sorry.
Item 22 about the waiver of, from the mayor.
To be a waiver language.
RFP. So it'll be adjusted at some point.
We'll fix that.
Any questions from my colleagues on that?
Commissioner, we were told in the API budget hearing that any software that came forward without someone from API standing next to you at the podium, we were not supposed to put through because all software goes through the data governance team.
That's why this gentleman made the 1.5 block walk.
Connor Muldoon, API. Just to clarify Matt's request, this is not a new software. This is part of Microsoft 365. SharePoint allows us to build forms within Office 365 to get paper out of the system. Right now, whenever we're looking to do an assessment change, as Matt identified, I think 8 pieces of paper are printed off and manually looked at and compared and sent over and stapled and et cetera, et cetera. We've been working with their team for about a year or so to understand ways to optimize and improve that effort. Working with our partners over in Buffalo, we were actually over there a couple weeks ago to see firsthand how their system works. It's really exciting to be able to take all of that paper process, et cetera, and completely digitize it. So it would be basically an inbox where you say, you know, I'm going to look at these today, boom, 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 send it over to be reviewed, et cetera. It's done. This is really exciting stuff. We're really looking forward to working with this individual to basically take what they've done in Buffalo and bring it over to us to help our assessment folks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I should add, this is abstract, this is dull, even for me, especially for me. But to quantify this, we made 8,126 changes citywide last year. That represents about 14,000 assessment changes. At 8 sheets per, I'm not doing that math, but you know, even at 2 sheets per, that's 28,000 pieces of paper, all of which really cost money to store, we're learning. We can't just stuff them in the basement and forget about them. We're paying market rents increasingly all over the area to store our things and our people. This is one way in which we can avoid doing that.
So this is a daily deal, right?
Daily.
Daily process.
Daily.
This isn't about your,
This is,
this isn't about D-Day that's coming up as far as.
oh, correct, yeah,
Okay.
nothing to do with the reval, although it does really position us, I think, well to operate effectively after the reval, but also through, when we have to continue doing our jobs, when we have contractors on site doing a lot of work that would ordinarily be pretty disruptive to what we need to do every day of the year. This will enable us to bridge that gap.
Any questions? Okay.
Thanks, all.
And next, 23. This is, okay. Deputy Commissioner?
Good afternoon, President Hudson, councilors, Michael Lehman, Deputy Commissioner, Asset Management and Valuation. Item 23, Department of Assessment is asking for permission to retain a surveyor to survey the parcels right by the Garzone's property at 2426 South Avenue and the other city-owned parcel immediately to its southeast.
Across from the cemetery, that big grassy spot?
Yes, across from the cemetery.
You know, I'm very excited that something is happening with this property. You know, it's been sitting there for a while, and, you know, I remember years ago that the city was going in that direction, but never really materialized. I'm happy that something is happening with it.
This is the old Garzone's property, right? Yes.
Right there, right there.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Because the county got part of
it's
it.
great. Just want to also thank, because the florist shop that was next to it, that was deteriorating, was taken down too, which is great, so.
We discovered last autumn that was in enough disrepair to, it was demolished in November.
Right. And thanks, been disturbing Jake for years for that. So great that it was finally taken down, so happy to see it go.
Question for you, because I know at some
Yes.
point, so isn't part of that city, and then doesn't the county have another section of that property?
Yes, the western portion of the parcel, there's a green infrastructure program, joint between the city and the county. That portion would not be considered for potential development. So the survey is for the eastern portion of 2426 South Avenue, and then there's a little sliver also right up against the road. So
Kind of sort of the building, right?
including the building, yes.
Okay.
What's the current zoning on that parcel?
Residential,
Oh, residential?
yes, as of last summer.
Oh, so,
There had been a variance for commercial use for the Garzone Cafe.
So the variance went away, basically? Or was it post, or,
So the business hasn't been in operation for at least, the city seized the property about 10 years ago. I'm not sure if the variance would survive re-subdivision and assemblage, but we would be marketing it to residential developers once, we'll have an RFP, right? So
well, the
anyone can
variance is
apply
per
to it.
individual anyway, so it should have gone away, but.
It should go away. I can't say that with complete legal authority, but I understand that it would.
So if a potential person came in to do commercial, they'll be out of the vision there, right?
With the current zoning, yes.
Okay.
And a while ago, when Eric Ernest was doing something with this, when I was still a district counselor, the neighbors down there, they showed up and we had a meeting and they said, Joel, anything short of residential is going to be an issue. So I'm glad that we're still sticking with that residential idea.
Yes, Counselor.
I'm one of those residents, so yeah.
But let me ask the question on this, right? Because I'm going back into my memory bank here. I knew there was a water issue up there. I think that's why the county stepped in because of the drainage of the water. Yeah, you shaking your head. So let's clarify this a little bit. So when it's sold to residential, is there still going to be a water issue going through there, or has that been rectified?
It has. Onondaga Watershed came through and did a lot of work down there, put a lot of pipes in, and I mean, if somebody with more information could speak to that. But I remember about 6, 7 years ago, they came in and they did a lot of work down there for.
Counselors, this afternoon I can send an email showing exactly where the green infrastructure has been put into place on the parcel in contrast to the area that we believe is suitable for development.
Okay, because I don't want to have somebody with a water issue, and we knew that we had an issue with the water up there, so.
Or the neighbors that are conjunction to them that, because that's a hill,
Oh, it was tearing them up.
right? Yeah.
It was tearing them up, so I remember that. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, Counselors.
You know what, really quick, one question.
Yes.
Being that that's a emergency route to the hospital, was that considered too about how many, like when they did a study of housing, how that would affect with building more housing that way?
There hasn't been a housing study done that I'm aware of.
So we're, okay, no, thank you.
There are houses like next to it.
Yeah.
And
It's
along
a
that line.
residential
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Right, but if we're building more houses and that's the
Front,
emergency
back,
route
yeah.
to the
I don't think you
hospital,
can build that many on that lot.
it's a lot of land.
There's a lot of houses.
It's not as much land
part of South
as you would imagine, because the Save the Rain project took up a lot
They
of that
took a big
land.
chunk of it.
So it's not what it looks like,
It's
or what you
approximately,
would imagine it from before.
sorry for the interruption, it's approximately 1.37 acres we're talking about on the west side of South Avenue, across from the
So
cemetery.
that's a house with a big piece of land. Yeah, that's all.
We're talking about the buildable land, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a lot of, 1.3 is a lot.
Yes, thank you, Counselor. The city is requesting to grant a license agreement to permit CNS companies to do some basic Phase 1 environmental testing on 3 parcels adjacent to each other on Seymour Street.
Was this RFP'd as well?
Excuse me?
This is probably a regular. This is an RFP we have with CNS companies. I mean, I think we've enacted they're our regular company. We asked to do this stuff,
I think we
right?
had them on
They
contract.
have
Very
a
often.
long-term, yeah.
Long-term
agreement with
contract?
us, yes. Yeah.
We're on contract.
Any other
with them.
questions?
We're on contract.
I think they were one of the companies that we designate for this. We had an RFP a bunch of months ago, a yearly RFP, I think. Okay. Okay, any other questions? Okay, 25, 26, and 27, I'll hold 26 and
Thank you,
27.
Counselors.
25 is the lead agent, we're designating ourselves as lead agency, and we have Owen here.
Good afternoon, councilors. Owen Kearney, Deputy Commissioner for Planning and Sustainability. As Councilor Hogan mentioned, 3 items before you today. They're all related to the city's local waterfront revitalization program plan. We completed a draft of that plan earlier this year. That is a New York State funded process, and to have New York State review and approve it on their end, we must complete the environmental review and seek local legislative authorization to send them the plan for their review. These 3 agenda items will facilitate that. And as Councilor Hogan noted, the first step is that lead agency declaration that council would act as lead agency. So that's really the item before you today. And if there's interest to have more discussion on the plan itself, happy to do that in the coming weeks.
I think everybody would love to go through this 500-page plan.
Well, and what I could do as in addition to that is in a committee meeting or some other forum, happy to provide an update and a presentation to you all if you're interested.
But I think we'll discuss maybe having a public meeting on this.
Sure.
Just to see where we are as far as this, and once we get through this budget process.
Yep, happy to do so. But again, the item before you today is just really starting that environmental review process.
Okay, so we'll hold, thank you, Owen.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Okay, 26 and 27 will be held. 28, we have a special permit. And you are,
Talking about up here where them people came on the screen. You talking about up there in Brighton.
I appreciate your work on this, Christian. This has been, this is for already conforming use, correct?
Yeah.
This is a restaurant, it's part of our special permit process. This is up on Dell Street, used to be St. Urban's, and now it's going to be some other restaurant, so I would, I don't think we have any questions on this. We're going
Christian,
ahead.
what's there now? Which 2 restaurants, or you want to convert it to 1?
I'm not sure what 2 restaurants were there.
I remember, I think it was a Chinese restaurant?
It was a,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah. It was like a brewery
They closed
restaurant.
and
Okay.
St. Urban took over both spaces.
Okay, as long as you don't mess with Mom's Diner across the street.
Okay, well, any questions of Christian? Okay, thank you, Christian.
Thanks.
Okay, I am finished, President Hudson.
Before we go forward, I just want to make sure, like Joe, the number 20, the abandoned property, I know it's associated with, it's a step-by-step process for this local law to happen. Do we need to pass, need to pass Monday, need to be voted on Monday, right?
Hello again, Joe Barry, First Assistant Corporation Counsel.
It's been a while.
So the abandonment will be eligible to vote on after the public hearing.
Okay, yeah.
And then the local law to actually sell the property is a separate action that because it's a local law has to be automatically tabled until the May 20th meeting.
So we don't have to hold 20?
No.
Correct.
Okay, I was misinformed. Sorry.
Don't
Thank
hold
you, Joe.
You're welcome.
But we still
holding 20.
tabling 21. Yeah, 21 have to be an interesting table.
Okay, I am finished there, President.
All righty, thank you. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 29 through 40. 29 is a reminder of the public hearing tonight on the budget. 30 is the shelter rent agreement, which is going to be held. We're going to have a committee meeting on that
Okay,
one.
okay.
And 31 is the mid-year fund transfer. Tim?
So 29 is the budget that you'll be voting on Monday. So there will be a couple amendments that we have to make, including adjusting AIM revenue up, because that is higher than we expected, and then figuring out how we either adjust fund balance or whatever. So as you all think about your amendments, just let me know tomorrow so that we can draft them and be ready for Monday. Any questions? There'll be a few related to the school district. There always are, because what gets put in the budget a month ago is inevitably different than what happens with the state budget. So any questions on that.
31, mid-year transfer.
31, the mid-year transfer. We distributed physical copies of a memo summarizing the transfer, the details of the transfer, and the backup of the mid-year estimate. It's late. It's usually due March 15th. It's really late because of being slow with the FY23 close, and we include those numbers in the estimate, so I didn't want to share anything that would be wrong and contradict what the close was. And then by the time 23 closed, we were really in the heat of budget season. So it's not ideal, but it's not really ideal for us any more than it is for you. So we definitely want to do it earlier. And it just shows, essentially, instead of using, I think it's 7.8 million less of fund balance use planned halfway through the year than we did a year ago at this point. So it's saying we would use 15.6 million of the fund balance instead of 23.4. And I'm happy to address any questions if you have any about the transfer. A big portion of it is allocating the payroll changes to the departments. So there was a generic special object that had $4 million. So 2 million of that is getting put into the appropriate salary codes in the departments. Any questions?
Joe, you had a comment? No? Yeah.
Just say ditto.
Just to clarify, under the charter, the council has until Wednesday to adopt the budget. Historically, you've been doing it at the first meeting in May, but if for some reason more time was needed, you could call a special meeting from Wednesday.
Thank you. Item 32.
Afternoon, councilors. Dave Proack, Director of IT. This item is an agreement with Spectrum that would allow us to get internet service installed at both Southwest Community Center Pool and Clary Pool.
We paying for this?
We don't use, that wouldn't come out of like the parks budget?
No, IT pays off for all the internet services that with one body managing that.
And it's not, no broadband yet, as far as,
I'm sorry?
we don't have what is the new service we have?
SurgeLink?
SurgeLink.
Not in that footprint.
But this also is in conjunction with the possibility of having the cameras put in those areas? Is this?
Well, we'll have that option. The initial impetus is to have a farther reach with our network and for timekeeping devices.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item 33 is an item for Joe Driscoll, who is unable to make it. He might be able to be here by the end of the meeting. If not, he will speak with the study session Monday. And moving on to item 34.
Hello, Councilors. Ruth Neon-Grant, Director of Communications and Marketing. This item is for the city to re-enter its agreement with Granicus, which is the company that provides the products, the software products that we use to manage the website, that we use to build and design the website. It includes different modules and portals, particularly one for managing forms, one for managing the website and the content that's on it, and one for managing any kind of plugins that we use to connect it to Azure, so that when people sign onto their computer, they don't have to sign in to manage stuff on the website. It all connects together and that information talks to each other.
How's this going for the website so far?
You said what?
How is the software going for the website? I mean, are we using this?
It's going extraordinarily well. It was a very good decision.
We get approval?
API. Okay, thank you.
Item 35. We've got 36, 37 as well.
Yep. Good afternoon, Councilors. Mike Canizero, Commissioner of Finance. So item 35, we had the Finance Committee meeting a couple weeks ago. We issued in late March, just extended audit delays. So with those delays, we have to pay Bonadillo. So we have the contract information here. Typically, we pay about $126,000 annually. That will bump up to $129K. For the fiscal year 23 audit to be paid in fiscal year 24, we're requesting a one-time increase of $14,000. So, that $126,000 audit fee will be $140,000. This is a one-time increase, and, the goal is to not have any delays for the fiscal year 24 audit. Any questions?
No, not a question, just a comment, because I'm going to have to. Because I think, as I've stated previously, not just your department, all of the other departments, when you guys have a delay, we have a double delay.
Yep.
Because then you're looking at us saying, oh, you got to pass this, you got to pass this. We just got it.
Yeah.
So that kind of causes problems for us as well.
Yeah, no, and I think Tim presenting the mid-year budget estimate, that's my department's work. That's flowing into that as well. And, he's delayed because we're delayed. So, it all rolls downhill.
And I know everything, works together, but at some point, I don't know, I might have to look to Joe Barry to find out, because I'm tired of being rushed, okay? Especially when you're talking about something that's in depth for a city to be rushed, you got to pass it. We got to do something different than we're doing. We do. That's all. That's my only comment.
36, 37.
So I think you guys are all well aware, we've kind of finishing up phase 2 with Ernst & Young for the EY modernization. So this will be, replacing AS400 for payroll and, replacing AS400 for all of our employee demographic information. So, an HR function. We've scaled this back. So this is the phase 3 work. So this is really getting us to the finish line as far as deploying this and using this for actually processing city payroll and HR, using the modules to help with HR-related work. I'm increasing this by $2.175 million. The total project cost will be $6,350,000. Right after this, I have a meeting with EY to demo the new payroll software. We've gone through demos with the HR software. It's very intuitive. It seems like it's got great functionality. One of the things that frustrates me with AS400 is step increases. We know step increases are happening every year. We have a report come out of AS400 saying these people's steps are wrong, that some people look at, some people don't look at that. The external reporting outside of the payroll register, step increases should automatically happen on the date of hire. The new system, those step increases will automatically, this person's been a year, step 1 will become step 2, whereas right now that is a manual intervention that needs to happen for 1,000 employees, 1,000 union employees every year until they're maxed out of their steps. So it's very, in my eyes, basic functionality that we don't have with AS400. Recording salaries directly to grants, recording those directly to projects. Really, right now, AS400 is very limited. We had the sidewalk fund come online a couple years ago. Getting those salaries posted to the sidewalk fund, was a couple months of programming for the AS400. So just very limited with some of those IT general controls. I think the plan is still hopefully to go live July 1st with payroll and HR. For PeopleSoft, I think we had quoted you at one time an $8 million cost. That was kind of one of those numbers that just someone said once and we were running with it. At least on my research, and this is, costs that are residing in PeopleSoft today. Cyber was the consultant for the PeopleSoft implementation. It looks like that contract was $2 million. There was an amendment to that. So I think the total PeopleSoft build out and implementation was about $2.8 million. That was paid to Cyber. And then to Oracle, so the provider, we've been paying quarterly license costs. These costs are from June 30th, 2015 through today, or last week. The quarterly license cost, so this is about 10 years worth of license costs, about $904,000. And then, we contract out PeopleSoft support to the county. Those costs for the last 10 years are just about $650,000. So in total, what does PeopleSoft cost us? I'm looking just shy of $4.4 million. I can't attest to that's 100% accurate. We would have had staff time, staff hours into the project. That this doesn't include any of that. But as far as money that left the building, pretty confidently at least $4.4 million. Maybe there was another vendor involved, but that's what I'm coming up with. So 4.4.
And we heard a bunch about this during our budget hearings over the past month. I've been working with the commissioner for about 5-6 weeks at this point to make sure that I have the documentation that if we move ahead, that we're going to end up with a product that works for all of us. So, Commissioner, I'm going to hold these items and request that you go into more depth with my colleagues before we have a vote on this.
I think the key thing is we want to know when this ends, how much money we're going to have to keep on spending.
As far as the ongoing cost of licenses and maintenance, or?
Well, like everything. I mean, it seems like every meeting we have another item about, trying to get the software to work for the citizens of the city, And it's from all sorts of different departments and everything else, but when does this end? When do we get up to where we're confident in everything that we have in the system is working to the benefit of everybody?
And in addition to that, I think my concern is that with a year and a half left in this administration, where are we going to be going into the next administration? Are we going to be fully converted, or? I mean, for the committee meeting, you don't have to answer that now.
Yeah, so
but I
for
think
payroll and HR, yeah, I mean, by the end of this administration, we'll be fully implemented, for payroll processing and, the HR modules. Everything else, new GL, centralized AR, capital project, grant tracking, I can't really answer that question.
Well, I think this is just not to you, Commissioner. I think the administration's got to give us some sort of solid reasoning, maybe a timetable. It doesn't even have to be a timetable. When does this end as far as the amount of money we're going to have to spend in order to get everything right? Because frankly, none of us are, I don't think, tech gurus by any means, but, frankly, some of our departmental budget meeting, the API meeting, just further confused me, as a matter of fact. I'm just speaking for myself. And I just don't know where the end game is as far as this goes. And I'm not comfortable, I'm glad you're holding this.
Because we've been moving since 2012, moving along with PeopleSoft, and this is 2024, and we're still moving along with PeopleSoft, NAS 400, and. But what's gonna happen, because we were, we jumped on with the school district, they're no longer with PeopleSoft. We jumped on with the county. So how is that going to end up for us? Because I'm hearing they're moving away from PeopleSoft too.
The Oracle cloud-based, I can't confirm if the county's doing that or not. There will be integration. So I mean, obviously, the county, are our purchasers. So as far as how that information is, and I mean, really, this project doesn't affect that. I mean, this is strictly payroll and HR. But if we were looking at kind of a new accounts payable software, which that's primarily what we're doing in PeopleSoft today, accounts payable, so disbursements, and then our general ledger accounting, we'll have to figure that out. So I know not a regularly scheduled meeting, but we're reaching out to the county every so often. And Christy Smiley, I probably reach out to her once a month just as far as, what are you guys doing in PeopleSoft? How do you guys build this out? The timeline of the cost, the internal labor piece. And then I think an issue for us is, we don't really have a dedicated internal PeopleSoft IT person. So, whenever we have questions with PeopleSoft, we have to reach out to the county, and hopefully they have time for us.
So how many IT departments do we have? Because I'm a little confused. I am. We got IT, we got Nico, we got who, what?
I believe digital services consolidated with API under the IT umbrella, but I think I will let Frank confirm that.
Frank Oliva, the city's chief administrative officer. We have one IT department, and they are responsible for the infrastructure, the general platforms, making sure the superstructure all works and hangs together. And they are also responsible for the movement of all of that infrastructure from what has been on-premise servers, or in one case with PeopleSoft, rented space from the county, moving all of that into our own space in the cloud, which is where most of our platforms that the city employees are moving. So most of the platforms that we license are moving from on-premise physical servers into cloud servers, just the way the industry is going. So that's IT's job. Nico and Digital Services are focused on the support and training and for the smaller systems that are used by a single department, or maybe in some cases one or two departments, but not the overall city platforms.
Okay, maybe I'm a little slow here. So Oracle and all the rest of the PeopleSoft and all of that, that's under IT?
Yeah, yep. Okay. Yep. And Mike and his team and Rick and his team are the primary users. They're really the internal customer to IT for those platforms and that infrastructure.
Frank, is the idea to bond for this?
Yes, for as much of it as we can, which is the vast majority of it. So we'll pay for it over 10 years.
Frank, if I understood correctly, there's a little bit of a time-sensitive thing with the HR and the Ernest & Young contract. Why don't you come here, Richard, so you can tell us a little bit about that.
And can you also include City Walk? Because I thought, is that a part of it as well?
City Works?
Is it City Work? Okay.
Yeah, City Works is a different platform that we're considering moving across the city. It's currently used by water. It's a project and asset management software, so it largely tracks what resources are being assigned to a particular contract at any given time and where those assets are. So it's not, it will not be integrated with, well, that isn't totally true. The asset valuations that come out of City Works will eventually find their way into the new financial system. But that's the point of intersection there.
So there was a situation with payment, was that resolved?
So kind of the deadline we're running up against is the funding that we had from the first two phases is essentially running out. So EY is working with us to stay on board to make sure that we can transition into this new phase with this allotment. But that's kind of
So, but you mentioned that if they weren't paid at a certain time when we met, that they were going to pull out.
If there was, not necessarily a specific deadline, if there was ambiguity of we don't know if we have funding to move further with the project,
okay,
they're out of monies. But knowing that we're doing this, they're working with us to stay on
they're
board
okay
to make sure that we can transition should this get approved.
That's what we need to know.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Your calendar for the community meeting.
Will do. Thank you.
The remaining three items, 38, 39, 40, will be held for executive session.
All righty. Councilor Jones-Rouser.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 41 through 81 with items 42, 43, and 44. We will introduce those, but they were tabled for a committee meeting. Okay, hold those. And also
Which ones, 42?
42, 43, 44, and 46 will be held. 41.
Michelle Spansky, Deputy Commissioner in Neighborhood Development. Item 41 is a request to amend an ordinance that was previously authorized. This is for the 40 homes that Home Headquarters is building. So there was a list in the original ordinance that was passed that was put forward of about 65 properties that we were looking, basically kind of our top 65 priority properties. This particular property was inadvertently excluded from that list, so we're just looking to add it. There's several other properties that are on Holland Street also that are priorities, so keeping with the same vision.
It's not authorized, it's an amendment. Yep. I goofed it and put amend there.
All right, thanks.
Any questions? I'm sorry. No? Okay.
Good afternoon, councilors. Kimone Jordan, Director of Housing and Neighborhood Planning.
Hey, come on. Did you want to speak? Jen. Sorry.
Come on. I think this will be quick because we're just introducing and holding. Good afternoon, everyone. Jen Tiff, Director of Strategic Initiatives with the city. We'll quickly introduce 42, 43, 44, and then look forward to hearing about the committee date to talk about these items further. These are all companion pieces. We did get a favorable conditional eligibility notification from the state of New York for the broadband expansion grant that we applied to with your permission a couple months ago. And so in advance of what will hopefully be a successful grant award from the state, we wanted to bring these items forward for more discussion with you all. And hopefully authorization to move forward. This would be for a $10 million plus grant from the state to essentially expand our municipal broadband service to 13 additional census tracts. It would include all of the valley, a big portion of the north side, and Skunk City, which are 3 areas in the city that today really struggle with access to reliable internet. And through this program, we would be able to bring very, very affordable, high-speed internet to those residents.
Jen, when we have that committee meeting, can you just, can we define what very, very affordable is?
We will
Can
define
we dig
it
down
all.
into that a little bit
Yeah.
deeper?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
'Cause you're seeing other cities with municipal broadbands now passing the cost on to the users.
Correct.
In some places, it's not. Very,
Yeah,
very
we're
affordable.
trying to avoid that. So yeah, happy to get into all those details. And when we meet as a committee, we'll also give everyone an update on how the pilot's been going, which has been on the near west side and the south side, just so you all have a sense of how many people are using the service and what the performance of the system is like. So happy to provide all those details, but if anyone has any quick questions right now.
No, we'll wait for the committee meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you all.
Counselor, I just wanted to make sure everybody understand that 42 is accepting the agreement from accepting the money in and enter into an agreement with the state for the grant. And 43 is adding 1.4 million to already existing 3.5 and the grant money. Okay, so we're doing an appropriation there of opera money there, and then 44 we're pumping it up to enter an agreement with CBN Geneva. So and I think the RFP was probably done on that, or do we need to do a waiver of the RFP?
The RFP was done.
Okay. All right, so.
We're holding it, though, right?
Yeah, we're holding. I just want to let you know that this all ties in with
Well.
Good afternoon, councilors. Kimone Jordan, Director of Housing and Neighborhood Planning. So items 45 through 81 are requests for these properties to be transferred to the land bank after the foreclosure process is complete. There are several that we would like to hold because we've had successful contact with some of the owners. So the first thing to note, item 48, there's a typo in the property address. That should be 114 South Alvord.
Oh, okay. Oh, Albert. Okay. Oh, it says north here. On the line, it didn't say that. 114.
And then we'll be holding item 70. So 212 Elizabeth Street. Item 76 at 716 South Ave. And lastly, item 81, 135 Mather Street.
What was my question?
Mo, did you get an answer to my question about Wall Street?
Yeah, that was with the, that. No,
So that property is 4 years delinquent by about $37,000. We did a title search in January, and that did come back, so we'll send out the 30-day notice and surplus notice by the end of the week.
Okay, thank you.
So it's moving.
I have a question about, so I remember, as we take, or after we're seizing the houses, there was a process, once we, seize them, who is doing the maintenance, making sure the grass and stuff is cut and those things?
So once they're seized and transferred to the land bank will take
They
care
still
of
have the
maintenance.
RFP where they're having people cut grasses?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
They've, they already redid their contracts for the year, so they don't have an RFP out right now. They've already filled their contracts.
Right, but they got more houses now. They're gonna get more houses.
Oh, yeah, they might end up
So
putting another
this
one
is
out.
And they'll have to hold them longer, too,
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
with the Housing Trust Fund.
Yeah, so it'd be abundance of more houses. And I just said that because a couple neighbors have called, community neighbors, are like, people are dropping stuff in abandoned, in the houses now. So then that puts it on us to remove it. So, I just didn't know like what the process was at that point.
I don't know if they'll have to put another RFP out because they haven't had a lot of property, so they might be fine, but we'll monitor.
Come on, Mather Street is in the 4th district?
Yes, from my understanding.
Mather
Mather's
is by like
is up
Carrier
here.
Circle.
No, Mather Street, the one is off Burnett Ave.
That's up here.
Running into Hawley.
Yeah,
By that area, right. That's right.
right, that's why I'm
Chubby's
questioning, because you
district.
got District 4, and Mathers is up the street.
Yeah, that might be a
my
typo. We can have that corrected for Monday.
Yeah. I'm a
Item
cousin
81.
there, yeah.
Your cousin lived there?
Yeah.
No, Mathers is right off of Harley.
Okay, are we all set,
You-
Have that corrected for
We're
Monday.
good. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll look it up.
Before we go, I just want to compliment ABG staff for Housing Trust Fund over at Weeks School. It was really informative. There's over 100 people there, so bravo for getting the word out, as we often talk about here. They actually got the word got out and people were pretended, so it was terrific.
I'm looking for it, Patrona, I can't find it now.
And I want to mention, we're going to extend getting the word out tomorrow evening at 7, Dale Street Neighborhood Watch on the Upper North Side, so.
Who runs that neighborhood watch?
I don't know.
Okay.
All righty, are we done? I need a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Let's go.
All righty, see you later.